What's better than regular Idaho? Greater Idaho. And a lot of people want to make Idaho greater by making it bigger, especially people located here in the eastern half of Oregon. They want to move this border west, allowing 15 counties to join the Gem State. Why? Here's the story. Roughly 70% of Oregon's 4 million people live in this area between Portland and Eugene. And why not? It's one of the best places in America for exploring ancient forests, enjoying a half-calf double-tall soy latte, or throwing Molotov cocktails at police officers. The rest of Oregon has fewer trees and a lot fewer people. The economy is mostly agricultural, and the politics tends to be conservative. Basically, in eastern Oregon, you are much more likely to grow soybeans than to put them in your coffee. This has led to political tensions because, for several election cycles, eastern Oregonians have voted mostly for Republicans, but western Oregon has voted heavily for Democrats. And because there are a lot more Westerners, Democrats have been winning everything and enacted lots of progressive policies like drug liberalization and gun control that conservatives in the East are powerless to stop. So, a lot of people in eastern Oregon have been looking longingly at Idaho. Its economy is also very agricultural, and its politics are very conservative. Why not just move the border? Greater Idaho advocates say this would benefit everyone. Democrats in richer western Oregon would live in a state that was even more firmly Democratic and would no longer have to subsidize government services in the East. Idaho, they argue, would benefit from having even more conservatives on the state's voter list. 53% of Idaho voters supported the idea, according to one poll, and when asked about it on Fox News, Idaho's Governor Brad Little made sympathetic noises.
That doesn't surprise me one bit.
To help their cause, the Greater Idaho movement has organized referendums across the state, and majorities have supported the idea in 11 out of 13 votes. And a Republican state senator recently introduced a bill in the state legislature to begin formal talks with Idaho about redrawing the border. So it kind of seems like a done deal, right? If the residents of eastern Oregon want to become Idahoans, why not? Actually, the borders of American states hardly ever change, and the only changes in the last century have been tiny. The last time something as big as a county switched to a new state was way back in 1896. This is partly because the process is difficult. Both states and the federal government have to agree to any change. It can also create lots of complications. Greater Idaho proponents argue that Idaho's laws would be better for business, would lower taxes, and would better reflect their conservative values, but just the fact that Idaho's laws are different, even slightly different, could create all sorts of complications for really boring but necessary things, like contract law and insurance claims. Eastern Oregon also contains 3 Indian reservations, and negotiating an agreement between tribal, state, and federal governments could be extremely messy. It may not even be possible. Oregon's government also employs roughly 35,000 people. Presumably, the jobs located in eastern counties would be transferred to Idaho's government, but maybe not all. And you just know there's going to be tons of paperwork. All of these problems can be overcome, of course, but that will probably take a lot of time, energy, and money, and it's hard to see why Oregon's government would think it was worth the effort. Sure, it would park a lot of Republican voters in another state, but do they need that? Democrats already have a permanent lock on all branches of state government. Or do they? As recently as 2002, just over 20 years ago, both houses of the Oregon legislature were controlled by Republicans. The American political landscape has changed significantly since then, but the American political landscape is always changing. In 1964, for example, Eastern Oregonians mostly voted for the highly progressive policies of Lyndon B. Johnson, turning their backs on the arch-conservative Barry Goldwater. That's a huge change. Who's to say it won't change again? And would it be a good thing for America if we started redrawing state boundaries to match our constantly shifting politics? We could end up with some pretty weird-looking states. For these reasons and others, the Oregon political establishment thinks the Greater Idaho cause is a long shot. But whether it succeeds or not, it does reflect an important problem. A significant number of people living in eastern Oregon feel disenfranchised and marginalized. Whatever your politics, that's not good. The supporters of the Greater Idaho movement think moving Oregon's border is the best solution, and if they succeed, they have ambitions to expand Idaho's borders even further into Washington state and California. You've got to wonder how far this might go. Who knows? Maybe someday we will all live in Greater Idaho.
That doesn't surprise me one bit.